I've just told my friend Yogendra that I'll speak for about 15 minutes and then take questions for about 10 minutes. And I'll listen to the first part of Yogendra ji's talk. Now, firstly, I must utter a word of caution. Be that any government, please don't believe in the promises of the government. I'll tell you some promises made by the Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister. He said, economy will double to 5 trillion by 2022. We are only now in 2014, isn't it? 8 more years. You can wait. 2022. PM promises farmers' income doubling by 2022. Bullet trains to be reality in India by 2022, says Narendra Modi to Indian diaspora in Oman. Every Indian will have a house by 2022, PM Narendra Modi. In 2022, every house in India should have 25/7 electricity, PM Modi. India aims to send astronauts into space by 2022. These are all not my inventions. These are recorded. You can go back to the library and look at the Hindu, Indian Express, Business Standard. All these promises are made in long before 2022, saying 2022. Someone mentioned the 5 trillion economy. We are in 2024. We should have reached 5 trillion in 2022. Maybe we reached 2022 5 trillion. We are going down. I don't know. This year, we will reach 3.8 trillion. 31st March 25, we will reach 3.8 trillion. 31st March 2026, we will reach 4.1 trillion. At that rate, we'll be lucky if we reach 5 trillion in 2030. So I don't think you should take government's promises seriously. Any government, you have to test it on what they deliver after they make the promise. Now, what do young people expect? Not in one budget, in the overall framework, what do young people expect? One, they expect they will have jobs. Now, the periodic labor survey taken in 2023-24 says India's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.2%. Now, I'm sure there are many master's students in economics, PhD students in economics. Under economic theory, any unemployment rate below 5% is considered full employment. But we are only 3.2, so we have reached full employment. Why should we create jobs? We don't have to create jobs. In fact, we should shed some jobs. The same survey says youth employment is 10.2%. And here is the good news for us. Graduates' unemployment is 13%. How can the same survey published by government have these three figures? Overall unemployment is 3.2, but graduates' unemployment is 13%. For every job that is advertised, there are at least 10,000 applications. You see scuffles taking place, stampede taking place, people pushing each other. Unemployment is the biggest problem, biggest challenge faced in this country. The economic survey, thankfully, the economic survey is not written by the finance minister or her bureaucrats. The economic survey is written by a chief economic advisor who is reasonably free and autonomous. And I must congratulate Ms. Sitaraman for giving the freedom for him to say what he wanted to say. He has followed in the footsteps of Dr. Shankaracharya, Dr. Raghuram Rajan, both of whom have worked with me and whom I greatly respect. He says 78 lakh non-farm jobs, not in agriculture, 78 lakh non-farm jobs have to be created every year until 2030. He stops with 2030. We have to go beyond. So in the next 5 years, we must create nearly 4 crore jobs. Are we doing that? Now, look at the employment schemes of the government. They have 8 schemes for employment. PLI, Production Linked Incentive, there are 5 lines of expenditure. New Employment Guarantee Program has 1 line of expenditure. Prime Minister's Employment Guarantee Program has 1 line of expenditure. And Skill India has 1 line of expenditure. So there are 8 lines of expenditure. The government must spend the money in order to see the results. In 24-25, that is the current year, which is coming to an end on 31st March, for the current year, they promised to spend 28,318 crore on these 8 lines of expenditure. 28,318. They actually will spend 20,000 crore. 8,000 crore of budgeted money, which Parliament approved to the government, allocated, are not being spent. If you don't even spend the money that you have budgeted for on creating employment, how will employment be created? And the second thing you are looking for is help in pursuing your education. The second thing is education infrastructure must be improved. Money allocated to education must be spent. If there are scholarships, they must be given. Now look at the figures. On education, I'm not going to burden you with too many numbers. On education, the budgeted expenditure and actual expenditure, they have cut the budgeted expenditure by 11,584 crore in this year. 11,584 crore. Maybe they came to the conclusion no schools need be built, no colleges need be built, no medical colleges need be built, no engineering colleges need be built. Why did they not spend? They've allocated, Parliament has allocated a certain amount of money, and they spend 11,584 crore less. Look at what they have done about specific programs. On specific programs, on say scholarships,
scholarships for scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. Post-metric scholarship for scheduled caste, they have spent 860 crore less. Is it because there are no scheduled caste boys and girls who deserve scholarship? Program for development of scheduled tribes, 670 crore less. Young Achievers Scholarship, 455 crore less. Here is a government which asks for money. Parliament allows the money, substantial amount of money. At the end of the day, they don't spend it on money, which means there is something wrong in implementation. I've been saying this for several years. This government's failure is not money, not lack of money. This government's failure is it simply cannot implement the programs. Now, I gave an example in Parliament. Mr. Shivraj Singh Chauhan, a long-term Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, is now the Agriculture and Rural Development Minister. Agriculture and Rural Development Minister. He has got both ministries under him, and now look at his performance. On agriculture, he spent 11,000 crore less. On rural development, he spent 75,000 crore less. So between the two ministries, he could not spend 85,000 crore rupees. If rural development is not implemented, who is hurt? The rural people, the poor people, the farmers are hurt. If agriculture, you don't spend the money, who is hurt? I could go on and on. The failure of this government, the failure of the budget presented by Ms. Sitaraman last year is that they could not spend the money. And most programs are unimplemented. The last point I wish to make is what you wish: employment, education, and third, the lives of the poorest must be visibly better year after year after year. The lives of the poorest people must be better year after year after year. Now, there is a survey called Monthly Per Capita Expenditure, Consumption Expenditure. Monthly Per Capita Consumption Expenditure. You know what is the average for the whole country? In urban areas, the monthly per capita expenditure, MPCE, is 6,996 rupees per person. That's 7,000 rupees. In rural areas, it is 4,662 rupees. Let's say 4,700 rupees. Assuming there are 4 people in a family, because it's per capita, multiply by 4, 7,000 into 4, 28,000. 4,700 into 4 is 18,000. What can a poor family, what can a family do if the monthly expenditure of the whole family, monthly expenditure on rent, food, electricity, water, education, healthcare, transport, all matters put together, if the monthly per capita expenditure of the average family in this country is 28,000 rupees, you can know the state of the family. This is the average for the whole India. This starts with the richest and the poorest. All of you understand simple statistics and arithmetic. What will be the average for the bottom half of the people?
It has to be much less. And what will be the average for the bottom half of the bottom half? 25%. It will be even less. If you can run a family, if you can't run a family at 28,000, how can you run a family at 14,000 or 15,000? How can you run a family at 7,000? This is why it's not surprising when the government's own data shares that monthly wages of salaried employees and self-employed have stagnated or declined over the last 7 years. Friends, we are in a crisis. The government does not admit the crisis. The government denies the crisis. It does not spend the money for education and healthcare. It does not improve the income of the average family. But it says, I'll give an income tax cut. I have no objection. I also benefit by the income tax cut. But that's not the point. Income tax cut is for everybody. How many people pay income tax in this country? 3.2 crore. India's population is 142 crore. Out of 142 crore, 3.2 crore pay income tax. So the benefit which Ms. Sitaraman is given is only for 3.2 crore. Nobody else gets any benefit. And she has given not only to the middle class, but to across all levels of income, right up to the richest man in India. I don't have to say his name. Right up to the richest man. This includes the financial benefit she has given includes 2,27,315 persons who returned an income of over 1 crore a year. It also includes 262 people who returned an income of 100 crore a year. And it also includes 23 people who returned an income of 500 crore a year. 23 people have returned an income of 500. 262 people have returned an income of 100 crore or more. 2,27,000 people have returned an income of over 1 crore. This benefit goes to them. I don't grudge them. All right, they need this money for small change. But what about the non-income taxpayer? If you are giving benefit to all the people, and especially the poor people, what should you have cut? You should not have cut income tax. But even if you cut income tax, you should have cut GST. GST is paid by everybody. If I buy a bottle of Coke, if the richest man buys a bottle of Coke, if the poorest man buys a bottle of Coke and shares it with his child, both pay the same GST. If GST had been cut, it would have benefited everybody. If the tax on petrol and diesel had been cut, it would have benefited everybody. If Maganrega wages, daily wages, had been increased, it would have benefited millions of people, crores of people. But that's not done. This is a government, we have charged it and we do so responsibly. This is a government which is pro-rich, pro-crony. It does not even promote capitalism in the truest sense. It promotes crony capitalism. This is not a government for the bottom half or the bottom half of the bottom half. This is not a government for 50% of the people of this country. Therefore, I'm very disappointed with this budget. I told the Rajya Sabha and the Ms. Sitaraman, we are thoroughly disappointed with this budget. But I'm sure you will have a few questions and Yogendra ji will be able to explain it better. Thank you.